This is Movers and Shakers, where we interview the upcoming generation of make it happen multifamily investors to share their story.
Welcome to the Movers and Shakers podcast. My name is Gino Barbaro, co-founder of Jake and Gino, multifamily investor, educator, father, mentor, and I am joined by my co-host, my brosif, Joshua Ryan Rusin, community director here at Jake and Gino. Josh, how are you doing today?
Gino, doing well. I was doing a little bit of reflecting. This is the 1 year anniversary of the Movers and Shakers show, and actually the 1 year anniversary of the guests we have coaching with us as well. And 2 years I've been with the company, and just reflecting on, our time here, the impact we've been able to have on others, and really the fact that we're not Coca-Cola, right? We don't sell sugar water. In fact, we offer financial education, and I truly believe in my heart, there's a lack of financial education in our society, and the impact that we're able to have on others, empowering them through this to achieve their goals in life, and not only them, but their friends, their family, their kids, and hopefully their kids' kids. Gino, what's on your mind today?
Well, you basically said it all there, Josh, huh? Great intro. I mean, the students here, we're eclipsing 6,000 units owned by our students that have closed deals, and I'm sure the number is even higher because students are closing deals all the time. It's been a great journey for me as well. I've learned a lot through the education from teaching others and teaching myself and learning. And what I think I've learned is, we're vertically integrated and we're learning new techniques, but our students are sharing it. And that's the great thing about being part of a community. You teach others, but you learn from others. And our guest today is a perfect example. I met our guest probably 3 years ago. We were both bitching and moaning about having no deals back then. And he was in single family and I was moving to Jacksonville, and there's no deals. And then there's deals. And it was funny. We were both sob stories together. It was great. And I immediately liked him. I'm like, this guy is just my kind of guy, right? And we got to grow to know each other. He ended up coaching with us. He ended up getting into multifamily in a big way. And I just wanted to, bring him on today and have him share his journey, because for us, it was like multifamily, it's never the right time. It's never the right time. There's no deals. Now we have deals. Now there's no funding. Ultimately, it's the right time when you decide it's the right time. And that's why we do Movers and Shakers, because we want to highlight all of our students closing deals, because there are people out there. There's great things that are happening out in the multifamily space. So that's why we continue to do these shows. I love doing them, and I love the education space.
Yeah, Gino, and I actually want to introduce today's guest, but before we do that, I want to piggyback on something you said there. What I truly believe is, for the wrong person, it'll never be the right time, right? There's always an excuse if you look for one. And really the best time to get started is always now. And that's what I truly believe in my heart. But as for today's guest, this is really powerful. So let's dive into this. So we have Chris Jackson. Chris is the principal and managing partner of Sharpline Equity. He specializes in finding underperforming multifamily assets with high upside opportunities. Sharpline Equity currently has 300 units under ownership in their portfolio and has done over 500 units and completed 6 full cycle multifamily projects. A little bit more about Chris. So he has over 10 years experience in all aspects of real estate investing, from flipping, wholesaling, lending money in small multifamily, all the way up to large multifamily deals. He began his career as a computer programmer and has 15 years experience in the tech industry. He has been a partner at a Long Island tech firm for the last 7 years, which I know he just recently sold that, and he resides on the North Fork of Long Island with his wife and 2 kids. He is an avid bird watcher and snowboarder. Welcome to the show, Chris.
Thank you, guys. Happy to be here.
Yeah. So Chris, let's kind of dive into your journey there, right? There's a lot in there, from computers to real estate. Give us a little bit of the background.
I got into real estate in 2009. I started my journey in 2008, and it took me a year to get my first deal. And I was about 33, 34 then, and I had been thinking about getting into real estate for 10 years before that and just never did anything. I know a lot of people can connect with, it was analysis paralysis for 10 years. I was a real estate investor in my mind for 10 years and didn't do anything.
So what held you back? 10 years without taking action. And then what was the kicker that made you take the leap and start taking action?
So I did take little pieces of action, but I didn't really take massive action. I had sent mailers out here and there, and it was mainly fear and over-analysis and allowing perfection to dictate how that everything had to be perfect before I took massive action. And finally, after 10 years of just doing little micro actions that didn't produce results, I just said to myself, I can't go to my wife anymore and talk about real estate without doing it. And I said, I'm getting a deal. And I got a 5 unit. I did a 5-unit, my first deal.
So I'm sure there are a lot of listeners in a similar situation. I want to do real estate. I am a real estate investor, but they're falling short when it comes down to taking action. What advice would you have to those listeners?
I think that you need to get educated. I mean, I know everybody says that, but you do need to get educated so you get a level of confidence. And then you need to just take actions and commit to your goal. And you allow confidence to build with each action. You have to allow yourself to develop confidence and move through it to get to your goal. I think a lot of people overanalyze all the steps to be perfect first, and then you don't go anywhere. And it actually creates more fear, more anxiety, and more paralysis.
So, Josh, two of my sayings that I love to say all the time is the first one is education times action equals results. I took massive action in the beginning when I first started my journey. Wasn't educated, didn't get the results I wanted. When I coupled the massive education with the massive action, you will get results, and it'll take you longer. That's why I don't think you're going to get into it and get educated in 6 months and do a deal and do another deal. You may be lucky, but that's not the case. It took us over 18 months, Jake and myself, to do our first deal. And I think the next one is fall in love with your actions, not your results. Like Chris said, they're all little, and I'm going to ask him what this is, what a micro action is, because I've never heard of that before. It sounds so cool. I got to dive into that. But I guess those little micro actions, those little micro things you do daily will lead up to weekly. And then all of a sudden your weekly will lead up to monthly. Then will lead up to quarterly. And then all of a sudden you've underwritten 15 deals in a quarter and you've done something. And then you translate that over into 60 deals in a year. And then all of a sudden at the end of the year, you've got a deal and it fell in your lap. But all those quote unquote little actions lead you to the big goal. What is a micro action, Chris?
When I think of micro action, I just look back at my journey of what made the difference. And I think about one action as an introvert, and nobody believes me that I'm an introvert now, but as an introvert, networking is extremely important in your relationship building aspect of your business. And one micro action I took was I'm going to a real estate investment association and I'm going to talk to one person, and that's it. That was that's all I did. I went up, I spoke with somebody, and it was 10 years ago, and I just said that was my goal. And I didn't punish myself for not going up to 12 people and being Johnny Handshake Bro.
Gotcha. So you get that 5-unit. What happens next?
5-unit. I then got a commercial loan on an 8-unit, and that was in about 2010. And then I started to need to become a good landlord. So I spent time for the next 2 years just learning how to be a landlord. And then I just started getting into flips and took my eye off the ball of multifamily, which was a mistake, and started doing flips, single family rentals, and wholesaling. And then I got back into multifamily, which ultimately I realized was my purpose.
So you say that was a mistake to kind of get back into flipping in the transactions. Elaborate on that.
Well, because I didn't know how to put it all together. I had a certain level of education to do multifamily, but I didn't know where to go next and how to go bigger. So I'm seeing everybody around me start to do flips and get seduced by the shiny object of transactional money making. And I didn't go back to what I was seeing was more of the longer, better journey of just wealth building through multifamily. So I got back into it at about 2015, and then just started getting bigger units.
So when you did that, you're getting into that space right there. What actually got you back into it? I mean, how did you start learning about it? Because it's a completely different mindset. I mean, you're talking about doing a deal, waiting 18 months to get paid, as opposed to flipping a house for 3 months, correct?
Totally. I just started to see that it was I wasn't creating. I was creating a new job for myself. I had to hunt for the next kill all the time, and so what happened was I hired a mentor. I had a mentor for I got a local mentor for my first deal. And then I hired another mentor, and I worked with him for a year to learn how to syndicate at what I believe the highest level.
So Josh, this is your quote: pay to play or seek to serve. It seems like most of us who want to be successful, we go out there and we see people who have done it and we want to replicate their success. And I think that really dramatically shortens your learning curve. I think you can always go back and bounce ideas off. And that's why I love coaching in the real estate space. Because if you're going through a deal, and Chris has had a lot of successful students, when they're going through deals and they've never done one before, little things come up, whether it's due diligence, whether it's the LOI, how do I put it in, whether it's the underwriting the deal, whether it's when you finally close, what are the takeover steps. There's so many different little ramifications going on. And when you have somebody holding your hand throughout that entire process, it's just going to make you more successful. You're going to save a ton of money. That's the bottom line. You're saving time, you're saving money, and it's going to be a more pleasant experience because you're not going to mess the deal up. How do I know? Because I've messed up many deals without having a mentor. And then when I actually had one, I closed on 136 units. It was an amazing experience because I'd call them up and say, hey, what do I do with this LOI? Hey, how do I underwrite the deal? And that mentor was there for me. So I think that's really amazing. Chris, I forgot to ask you, what markets were you looking at? Because in Long Island, it's a difficult market to look at. So where were you looking at in your market analysis?
Well, I started out in upstate New York because it was I wanted a cash flowing market and I had a certain amount of capital. So I needed the most stable market that I could get into with my cash. As I grew through my journey, I began to look at more emerging growth markets like Atlanta, Southeast, and places like that, where a bulk of our portfolio now is.
So if you have, potential students listening to this, what would you say to them as far as next steps to get into multifamily, other than the limiting beliefs? Because there are a lot of limiting beliefs in here, not enough capital, not enough time, not enough experience. Give me a couple of steps you would say to them, hey, this is what you need to do to get into this space right now.
You gotta put yourself on a schedule to educate yourself through education and training yourself and committing to learning. And then you have to step out of your comfort zone and learn how to network and build your confidence, and so that you can start building the relationships around you, because this is a team sport. I mean, I feel like business building is always a team sport. So you have to get yourself into a place where you're developing relationships constantly, so that helps aid you in raising capital, finding deals, and working with vendors. Like, the better you are at relationships, the better you are as just a business owner.
So I want Chris to give a shout out to his partner, because he's got an amazing partner. And I think partnerships are unbelievable. They really help. I've got Josh. I consider him as one of my partners. I got Jake, who's an amazing partner. So shout out to your partner, Chris. And also, what does your partner allow you to do or helped you along this journey?
So big shout out to Krista Testani of Sharpline Equity. She's an amazing person, an amazing business partner. We've been business partners for 5 years now. And she is more of the operations legal side of things. She handles a lot of the detail side of things. And it's amazing for me because I literally get to not think about it. It's not actually an offload, but I don't have to think about it. I trust it. So I can concentrate where I'm good at, on strategy, relationship building, which markets we're going into next, build those broker relationships. And she's also an excellent capital raiser. She instills trust in everybody. So we both have many overlapping concentric circles, which makes our business partnership quite strong.
That's awesome.
I want to hammer on two things there. So when we started out the podcast, you said you considered yourself an introvert. To now, You just said I'm an expert in relationship building. Those are two conflicting statements. How did you transform from an introvert to an expert at relationship building?
There was a belief in myself that I knew I had extroversion in me that I had hid and suppressed for a long time by being a computer programmer. And I didn't allow those skill sets to build. So I had to get very uncomfortable and allow all of a sudden this inner gift that I had to come out and build confidence on itself. And I realized that it was actually more of a strength than my analytical skills.
So you're saying limiting beliefs in your mind were actually holding you back from showcasing that gift?
100%.
So that's the amazing thing, though. The education, I will guarantee you, allowed you to become a better networker because it gave you the confidence to get out there. You didn't sound like an idiot when somebody says, hey, Chris, you know cap rates in Atlanta? Yeah, bro, I know they are. They're at 5 right now. You knew to speak the lingo, and you felt really comfortable doing that. And that's one of the things. Did you have a credibility book? Maybe you did. Maybe you didn't. Our students have that. It gives you the confidence to get out there and to talk to people because you're going to sound like you're part of the business. Would you agree with that?
Yes, the education and mentorship was critical because even though I just said you can't overanalyze, but what it does do is give you just so much more information that you have, that when you from the terminology, a conceptual ability to articulate these aspects of multifamily, wealth building, management. And when you talk to investors, brokers, through education, mentorship, you do have a base of confidence that shows, and you can see it in the reactions of people. So you have a leg up, and it allows you to have a foundation more to get out there and build out your networks.
Yeah, I want to piggyback on that point because that's really important. So sometimes when you're not educated, you go out there and take action, but it's not getting results, right? You're spinning your wheels and you're more likely to throw in the towel. But when you're educated, you know what you're doing, the action is much more targeted and it's easy, like a snowball. It's going to pick up steam and momentum rolling downhill once you start getting results to continue that momentum forward. So it's a huge point that education brings that confidence with the implementation that also gets results. So love that. All right, now the second
one thing I want to add, Josh, this is critical. I remember this in raising capital, because raising capital and raising money is a big like moment for even people that are high confidence, like they and extroverts. Like you have to raise money, you stare in front of the mirror and you're wondering like, oh wow, can I do this? The mentorship and knowing how to answer the question, how does this work with an investor? It just gives you so much confidence, because there's so many jokers out there when they get asked that question. They're just like, I don't know, we'll figure it out. And at the high level, you have to have the answer. And when you do get training and you can answer that question with details, even if you don't know the whole aspect of it, you have the base knowledge answered. You just come across with so much confidence and you start building your investor base so much more quickly.
Love that. We'll figure it out. Doesn't seem like a good business plan to me. So
there's a lot of operators out there that's their answer.
It sounds like something the government would say, actually, not an investor. To be honest with you, we'll figure it out. I want to get into some tips of networking, but before we do that, we've been hammering education. Would you like be able to share a story that how you helped one of the Jake and Gino students? You don't have to mention the name, but how you helped them get over the line, or even selected a marker, or even closed a deal, or even going through the deal and through management. How did you help them?
I recall one. I mean, I don't know if he wants me to name, but I'll just he informed me of a market. So that's the great benefit for me as a coach, that my students give me information. I'm like, wow, that's a great market. Didn't think of that. But he was very early on in his journey. But he picked it up fast, smart guy, committed. And I remember him getting a deal or a potential deal. And he's like, now I don't know where to raise the money. And I remember saying, this is what you're going to say the next time you talk to somebody. When are you talking to somebody next? And he's like, well, I'm going to my chiropractor later. And I'm like, you got to say this. Just tell it. Like, he's going to ask you, what are you doing? And you just say, well, I'm researching a new market. I'm to buy buildings there. And I believe he said that, and he walked out of that meeting with his investor, just having the right thing to say without sounding like a salesperson. And I believe that investor is still with him, and they're doing more deals. I couldn't be more prouder of him. I mean, I'm inspired by my students. I'm inspired by him.
So that was turning right, because you don't know who you're going to talk to, and he never would have found that investor. So that's an amazing story. What tips do you have for people who are uncomfortable in the networking space? And when you start networking with somebody, we say it's the introvert, and somebody mentioned the ambivert, and somebody says the extrovert. I think you're more of an ambivert, where you can go, it's in between. You can be an extrovert when you have to be. That's not where you get, Jake likes to use this word, your blaze energy. That's like your on energy. That's not where you live. Then you probably get burned out, but you can, turn around when you have to. Some tips on how to do that, how to become an ambivert when you need to.
Well, if you are an introvert and you feel like you're an ambivert or an extrovert, the tip that I would give is you have to be gentle on yourself. Don't expect the result to be that you're Johnny Networker overnight. It's going to take time, and you have to get used to how it feels. So you have to fall in love with your actions, as you mentioned. You can't fall in love with the result that could be a year from now. It has to be the micro actions that you fall in love with, and you walk out of there and say, that was good enough. I'm stoked. And then you go do it again.
And I would like to add one thing that a lot of our students have told me. When you go to a networking event, go by yourself. Like, if Chris and Gino are friends and Chris is like, Gino, let's go to this event together. Don't do that. Go by yourself, because you don't want to hang out with Gino and Chris. Chris needs to go hang out with other people. So I think that's really important. And I think the other thing, Chris, also is have a plan. Set some expectations when you go there. if your expectation is to talk to two people, have that expectation. And then also, what do you want to get out of those, conversations? I think doing that, people are just going to network. They don't know what they want to get out of. Do you want to raise capital? Do you want to meet somebody? Do you want to get on somebody's podcast? Whatever that expectation is, go there with some clear-cut expectations. And I think finally, the last thing I'd like to say about it is, what are you going to be able to offer for them in value? What are you looking from them, but what can you give them also in return? So that's really important as far as networking.
I didn't have this arrow in my quiver then. I wish I did, but it would be like, do everything you just said. And then at the end, ask them like, how can I be of value to you? Where do you need help?
Mm-hmm.
And then that elicits a great response, and you know where to focus your energy and your follow-up.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Chris, where do you see the market going in the next couple of years? I know that's a hard question to answer, but do you see there's opportunity? I mean, the sky seems like it's falling right now. There's a lot of uncertainty. What do you think is going to happen the next couple of years, and what are you planning on doing?
So people always need a place to live. And I think that if there was ever a going back to the buyer ownership mentality, this just like totally made Renter Nation across every demographic again, that just got hit in the face with a cricket bat. So there's going to be high demand for renters. There is also going to be a fair amount of opportunities for owners to go in and help other owners out that are going to get into some sticky situations in the next few months.
Mm-hmm.
And I am putting myself out there as I don't really love the hunter-killer attitude that I'm seeing out there. That's like, yeah, I'm gonna find when there's blood in the streets. Like I think you have to go out there as an owner that says, I'm looking to solve problems for owners, and then you'll be able to get owner financing deals. There's going to be many owners that maybe have a project that isn't going great, so you can buy a performing asset that frees up capital.
Mm-hmm.
I think you have to go in with the attitude of problem solver and not looking to eviscerate a seller, and you will win because you can solve complicated situations. And I think there's going to be a re-suburbanization, because high density cities are probably going to start having people get sick of the high density. You're not going to have cities get decimated, but you're going to see people re-suburbanize even secondary cities, because you're going to have the flee from high density, the work from home aspect that now is proven. You're going to have a lot of companies that look to lower their burn rate on office leases, and they're going to let their staff work from home. But you are going to have people still want to be near a hub of a downtown, but I believe it's going to increase in the demand for secondary cities across the U.S.
I love that. So everyone needs to read the book, Big Shifts Ahead by Chris Porter. I think what Chris is alluding to is what Chris Porter says in his book, The Suburban Area. It's really the suburban urban. And there are a lot of cities that are going to that. I think Nashville is a perfect example. It's like spreading out. You're not at the urban core anymore, but you're out in the suburbs where it's still an urban feel, where you have the Whole Foods, where you can walk to the park, but you still have a great school district. So I think that is what the highlight is. Now the assets are going to cost more there, obviously, but the rents are going to be higher. But I think going forward, that's what we're looking at, seeing, and that's an exciting.
And for a time, I mean, nobody can predict how long it will last, but there will be a period of time that those more expensive assets that are of newer vintage, higher quality from a building age perspective will be able to be grabbed for a discount if you've taken your education, you sound confident, you know what you're doing, and you can raise capital and pull it all together. So that's why you have to prepare to take access of this opportunity, because if you show up being a newbie just thinking that deals fall from the sky even in a recession, you're wrong.
Mm-hmm. Chris, what markets are you looking at to take advantage of in the coming future?
I'm still a proponent of the Southeast. I believe that you're going to have Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, the Southeast are very strong. And I think that you could start to look at some cities that may be considered tertiary, but do have a nice base. But they are like secondary cities off of a main core city within the Southeast markets, and start looking at those to look for that re-suburbanization increase of those secondary cities in secondary markets.
I love that. Before we get to the short answers, any tips on talking to brokers? Because now all of a sudden the pendulum swung. And my wife always says this: when something goes to 1 degree, it always comes back swinging. I didn't think it was going to be this fast, to be honest with you.
Sure.
Brokers had the upper hand for the last couple of years, and rightly so. There was a lot of people selling. It was a seller's market. Now all of a sudden it's a buyer's market. Any tips on engaging brokers, networking with brokers, reaching out to them, following up with them?
So the same principles still apply with developing the relationships with the broker, but the thing that I have seen different is I feel like you had to be a little more respectful 5 months ago of not wasting brokers' time. If you were 20% away on your pricing, sure, you can put your offer in still, but it was a little bit of time waste. You had to walk that delicate balance. In the last 3 weeks, I'm putting offers in on everything. Don't care. I'm putting in my offer. This is what it is. If you like, you show it to the seller or not, this is my price. And that's where it's changed. I'm not worried about that relationship risk, if you will, of wasting time. Every offer matters right now.
So Chris, when things stabilize a little bit, where's the delicate line between that? Let's say things stabilize in 6 months and we get a return to quote unquote normalcy, where it's not really a buyer's or a seller's market. How would you, take that viewpoint with brokers, because you still want to be respectful of their time. I would share my underwriting with them. I would say, this is where I'm at. What else would you do in that respect?
Well, I just think you offer up various solutions. Like, I think that what's going to happen is you're going to have a lot of syndications that are dealing with more of workouts with ego. Like, hey, if you don't want this to go to market, I can solve the problem and nobody will ever know about it. You have to be like a little more discreet. You can offer up various solutions. Are there solutions for this purchase that we're not thinking of that we can get creative with and handle it with grace and discretion?
So kid gloves. That's what I'm hearing, right? That's really good, guys. Let's take a quick time out to hear from our sponsors.
At Rand Capital, we're focused on providing the best financing option for each deal and every client. Our personalized service, along with our blue-collar work ethic, will give you the peace of mind to know that we will take the stress out of the financing process so that you can focus on other aspects of your business. For more information and to find out how Rand Capital can help you find the best loan for your deal, visit randcapllc.com to start the conversation.
All right, Chris, I got some short answer questions here for you. What's your favorite book?
What's my favorite book? I like the Charisma Myth. I forget about the author, but that was a book that helped me out of my introversion. It's the Charisma Myth. It's more of a science of how to have charisma.
Love it. What about your best habit for success and why?
The best habit for success was when I started to have a morning routine that allowed me early in the morning to get into a state of optimism.
Love it. All right. So there have been some really good gold nuggets on this show. I want to dive into a few, and then Gino, I know you're going to add to it. So the first one, this is beginning to be a common theme here. Education times action equals results. Again, that education gives you the confidence to take the right action, which is going to get results. Another one is don't chase shiny objects. Multifamily is a long game here. Stick with it. It is worth it, and the results will come. The next one is we'll figure it out is not a business plan. So if that's your business plan currently, you might want to kind of look in the mirror a little bit. And another one is progress, not perfection. Chris had mentioned you're not going to become the perfect networker or multifamily investor overnight, but if you can focus on taking strides in the right direction, that's going to help you ultimately get that end result. And then follow the demographic trends. So we're becoming a renter nation. Look at the shifts in the demand for multifamily and realize this is an asset class that's going to be here for the long run. And another one, when you're looking for deals, having the mindset I'm going to solve problems and create a win-win versus I'm going to look for those that are in a horrible situation and prey on them. It's not really the best mindset to create a win-win situation. And lastly, success happens when preparation meets opportunity. So if you're serious about getting in this, start getting prepared, start getting educated. And then when the opportunity strikes, you're there to take advantage of it. Gino, what do you have to add to those?
Well, Josh, isn't it proper preparation prevents piss poor performance? That's basically what it comes down to. So just piggybacking off of what you said, a couple other things. Really important what Chris Jackson said about being a team sport. That's what multifamily is all about. I mean, even single family, if you really chunk it down and you start getting a single family portfolio, you start doing fixes and flips, you need team players. It's a team sport. I think something that came through in the podcast, but Chris really didn't mention it, was the seek to serve mentality. I mean, he's seeking to serve. He's serving others. He's serving his investors. He's serving his partner. He's serving the Jake and Gino student community. And when you seek to serve and you don't really expect anything in return, it always comes back tenfold to you. So go out there and seek to serve others. And I just like to say, commit and figure it out. We all are really winging it out there, right? You commit to your education, commit to the multifamily, and then you will figure it out and you'll be able to create that business model for yourself. Any final words, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't touch upon it, but this is my year anniversary of coaching with the Jake and Gino community. I'm really blessed to have said yes to this opportunity, and it has really been a growth opportunity for me. I stepped out of my comfort zone, and I've learned so much from my students because it exposes me to probably 10 times the level of deal scenarios that I have to think through. So not only do my students gain from my experience, but I gain from them just in knowing them and becoming friends with them, and also being exposed to scenarios at a rate that I never would be able to on my own.
So the way Chris Jackson and Gino Barbaro met, we were both, like I said, bitching and moaning in 2017 about not getting into deals. And we had stayed in touch. I'm not a big Facebook person, but we stayed in touch with Facebook. We've called each other several times. It is June or July of 2017, and we go down and we are at an event together in Atlanta. And there is a VIP dinner afterwards. And this is where networking and relationships just come into play. We're sitting at the bar, and I'm like, there's the Long Island boy. I got to go up and say hello to him and talk to him. And I instantly liked him. We right away kicked it off, started talking about the deal, started talking about real estate, and we just kept the relationship going. And then Chris ends up going, I think, to Multifamily Mastery 2, and that's where the relationship started. So you never know where you're going to meet your next opportunity or the next person. Just go out there and have fun. It was a great dinner too that night. We had a lot of fun. Nice Mexican restaurant, a couple margaritas, and that's what it's all about. That's what real estate's all about. At least enjoy it. At least enjoy the opportunity to go out there and meet interesting people. And I remember that was a really great night. I had a lot of fun that night, and I'm just glad that I was there to meet you.
Me too. As you said, you just don't know where the chain of events are going to lead. So be open-minded, reduce your limiting beliefs, and you just don't know where it's going to take you.
Mm-hmm.
Chris, how can the listeners get a hold of you?
You can go to my website, sharplineequity.com. You can fill out the contact form. I'm on Facebook. Also have a private Facebook group called Multifamily Unveiled. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm pretty accessible.
All right. Well, Chris, listen, I want to thank you for being an amazing guest on the show and sharing your Movers and Shakers story. Guys, if you want to be the next Movers and Shakers guest, email me, josh@jakeandgino.com. And until next week, let's make it a Movers and Shakers week. See ya, everybody.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Hey Gino, the two most common questions I've been asked are, how do I get into real estate and do my first deal? The other question, how do I scale my real estate portfolio? Well, gang, we have great news for you. Gino, tell them about it.
We can help you answer both of those questions. At jakeandgino.com, we offer a variety of micro courses to help you along your real estate journey. Our proprietary 3-step framework has helped hundreds of real estate entrepreneurs successfully get started in real estate with no experience, and it has also helped experienced real estate entrepreneurs take it to the next level.
If you want more information, visit www.jakeandgino.com/courses. That's JAKEANDGINO.com/courses, and use coupon code PODCAST for 20% off your purchase on taking the next step in your multifamily journey.